scoot up a little bit more too. I know I'm like over. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So when we're riding in the car together traveling, we just made a video about systems. So the first day we were together, this is a very interesting thing to note. The first day we were together, as we're driving, the hours we're spending on the road now, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. We're like, oh, we need to make a video about that later. And then the day gets super busy and there's so many things that goes on. And then the end of the first night, Thursday night, we're like, crap, what were we supposed to talk about? And it took a second to be like, oh, wow. So one of the things that we do now is, as we're talking in the car or we're out somewhere and we think of something that would make a good video, I just make a voice memo of it. So the voice memo for this was, I already forgot what it was, consistency, what is it?
No, consciousness and competence.
Yeah, so like in the car yesterday, Chris is like, we should talk about consciousness and competence. So I literally don't know where you're going with that. So
yeah, Shane, I literally will say things not even knowing that they're good. I'm just going to put quotes, content pieces or things for you guys to listen to.
Yeah.
But Shane will be like, hold that thought. He'll pull out his phone. Consciousness and competence. He'll be like, cool, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, but let's a quick side note on this. This whole series is not meant to, part of it is meant to, one of the main goals, okay, let's clarify this thought. Two main goals for this series for you all, whether you're a magician or performer or someone starting a business or just someone that's curious. This is to show you, first off, what the life of a full-time performer is, what it actually takes to get to a six-figure business performing and on from that.
Beyond that, you gotta go. Six figures are what people strive for, but I promise you, you could go so much bigger.
Yeah, if you really, but you gotta put the work in. That's a complete other video.
The thing, and just piggyback off of that, one of the things I'm hoping to show is that people like idolize these performers who are full time and performing nonstop.
Yeah, you get to travel all over the place
and be on stage. It's not all glamour and stage.
No, you'll see.
It is gritty and grimy and nasty and tough. It's tough, man. Yeah. Anyway,
the other side of that is through that context of what it takes to do this full time is the learning of providing value for you all in the form of, hey, listen, what are things that Chris has learned along the way? What are things that I'm learning along the way as far as producing these? And so in some form or fashion, we provide some kind of value for you guys, And if you have any here's a quick little note that I would love to throw out there. If any performers are watching this or anybody that's wanting to start a business period and you have your own questions that you want answered, feel free to reach out to one of us.
Comment.
And say, hey, comment in the video. Say, hey, here's something that I'm curious about. And it may be something that we can talk about and show in the video. Okay.
Yeah. So consciousness and competence.
Yeah.
I could speak to that all day, but I just want to get this thought out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel guilty that I don't know where this came from. This is not me. This is probably in a book somewhere, a well-known book. A lot of the information that I have that I don't put out there for you guys because it's not right comes from Barry Friedman from Showbiz Blueprint, the best class in business and in entertainment I've ever taken or heard of or seen.
How many times a year does he do that?
I think once a year.
Once a year, that's it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's how long? 8 weeks?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Learning how to just go from zero to absolutely killing it.
Yeah, and we won't say the names, but there's some pretty big names, guys. You would know who they are.
I don't even want to spend the time on it because it is so good. And Barry.
Look up Barry.
Yeah, look him up. Okay, so I don't want to give out his information. This might be something that Barry's talked about, but I know that he's okay with putting this out there. Okay. Consciousness and competence. So consciousness, for instance, you want to get to a point where you're unconsciously competent. Let's talk about what that means, because where did this come up? You talk about, you're so good at networking with people, connecting the dots at gigs. You're so focused on how to take that walk-around gig and turn it into more gigs.
Right.
And you said, I can't do that because I'm so focused on doing my job right and leaving impressions with people.
Right. Well, it's also the big difference. I'm brand new. Even though I've been doing magic for 23 years, I have not been doing it as a business. So I'm brand new in that. So for you, this is something that you've learned over 5 years, 6 years of performing.
So I'm at the point now where the performing side of it is unconsciously competent. So let's talk about this. So competence is the ability to do something, right? And doing it consciously is I have to think about it. So when you start, you're going to be unconsciously incompetent. You're gonna not even know what you don't know. I'm unconsciously incompetent about ballet. I guarantee you, I might think that it's just a lot of spins and cool form. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to learn that there's the same world that exists in magic exists in ballet. I'm sure of that.
Is that something you're interested in, ballet?
No. Nope.
I didn't know if you had tights in your bag or anything.
I would love to be into it, but I don't have time.
Maybe help you move better on stage.
I'll become consciously competent.
Yeah, there you go.
So then you move into this thing called consciously incompetent. Now you know what you don't know. Oh wow, there's a Facebook page for ballet people. Oh, there's 20 pages for ballet. Yeah. Oh wow, there's a pirouette has 13 different forms. And by the way, that I don't know if that's true. I'm just putting that out there.
There's ballet shops.
Yeah. Now I'm aware that I don't know as much as I thought. Right? Like when you first get into magic, you're like, oh, I don't even know. Most laymen are unconsciously incompetent. Then you're like, oh my gosh, these DVDs and books and Royal Road and decks. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Unconsciously. Or you're consciously competent. You're aware that you're incompetent. Then you move into conscious competence. Okay, I'm learning. Okay, I understand. Now you can perform and do card tricks, but you have to think about it, right? Like you walk up to a person and you can perform for this group of people, blow their minds and leave an impression to get them clapping. But it takes all your thought. Like I was telling you the other day, like I was performing for the bartenders over there, and I walked out and I was like, I was thinking about when I was doing that SpongeBob trick. I was talking about something completely unrelated. I was thinking about things that happened previous days while doing my entire routine, and I, yeah.
Because you've done it so much.
Because I've done it so much, so I'm at a point where I'm not consciously competent anymore. I'm not having to think about it, and it doesn't use my energy to perform. I can focus on other things. That's called being unconsciously competent. I am now competent enough that I can do it unconsciously. I can be not even present there and still pull it off. That's not good. You should still try to be conscious.
You should still be present, yeah.
But I know that now when I'm performing walk around, I know the magic's going to be good. I know people are going to kill. I know I'm going to leave lasting impressions. I know that the fun is there. I can focus on, hey, how do I turn that guy into another person to hire me? How do I make... For me, it's not about the money necessarily. For me, it's about the connections. I just think wow, how can I give that person a better life? How can I take that person's company and improve their company to leave my mark and genuinely show them how I see things could be better for them?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that when I'm doing walk around, not what hand my coins are in or where my sponge balls are or what lines I'm saying. I'm thinking, oh yeah, he mentioned this, and in my head I'm like, all right, cool. Where does he work? What does he do? And So just go back over them: unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent, conscious competence, unconscious competence. You want to get to unconscious competence. When you get to that level in your show, even if you're doing a stage show, when you're unconsciously competent, that's when you know that you can book that anywhere and be good in any room. You can do it so much, you don't even have to think about it. Now you can have some fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to get too deep in this because this really could be its own video, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts on magicians who do a running show, like a weekly show. And there's two things that happen, right, when you reach that stage. One is now you're able to, focus on how do I focus now on really more so on the audience and the small intricacies of how the show affects them.
Yep.
But you also can focus on, okay, I've done this coin routine for thousands of people now. What if I tweak this one small thing, right? So now you can start to think like the individual pieces of the routine, how can those be changed? The other side of that too is some people, for instance, oh man, this is terrible. The Millionaire's Magician. Steve Cohen, yeah. So he said on a podcast, he's adding new effects in because he actually got to the point where he wasn't actively engaged with his own show because it ran on autopilot.
I'm not there yet, but I know performers who do that.
But it's probably, that would be a very interesting conversation that we would like your thoughts on. Is obviously what you're saying only comes with time and experience.
I am literally at the point where with my opening bit in my show, my beatboxing bit, I am down to tweaking when I take my breaths. And
that's incredible.
And actually, what's funny about it is it makes a huge difference. Like I notice when I breathe before this line as opposed to this line, it gets a bigger laugh. There's more energy.
Yeah, and you can't figure that out until...
It's a timing thing, I think, for me. But
but that comes from performance after performance after performance after performance after performance.
It's like shining. It's like shining something. You just you get finer and finer sandpaper. You know what I mean? Until it's perfect. So.
I know. I'll throw this out there too. A lot of times we make the mistake of, because we're talking about routine now, but a lot of times we make the mistake of wanting to become more consciously competent about our routining, when really, and you made a good point, probably unconsciously about it, but becoming more consciously competent about how you can provide more value to your client, which in the end, benefits you.
It does.
So it's a lot of performers are so focused on, okay, I've got to get this move right, or how do I walk up to people, or when you're able to get your routine down, then you can really and you really should be doing that from the beginning. How do I connect with my audience? How do I connect my audience to other pieces of my audience, which is another video we'll get into on how you do that in walk around, which is really, really, really good. There's a lot of tips for that, but it's how do I become consciously competent in order to give back to my audience more?
And one thing too.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I should have hit on this because this is something that every time I hear people talk about being at a gig and trying to get more gigs from that gig, it always feels dirty. But here's the thing. It's not, because when you go to Joe and do a trick for him and blow his mind, you say, Joe, where do you work? Oh, you work. You give him a value proposition. You say, oh, there's some cool and unique ideas for you. Hey, just consider this. Then you walk away. Now when he talks to Julia, the person who booked you there, which is usually the worst fear, people are like, oh my gosh, he's going to tell the booker that I pitched to him. No, because when Joe goes up to Julia, who hires me, and says, man, that guy was awesome. He got some incredible ideas about events. I'm thinking about bringing him out to my event. Do you know that does not look bad at all? That makes Julia go, man, I found this guy, and people want him, and he just said that this guy really knows how to handle events. I did a good job. Your worst fear sometimes is the best outcome. Yeah. So
we don't want to get too much in that, because there's so many different tips and tricks that you can give on how do you create that environment within a networking corporate gig. So I like it. Consciously competent.
You want to be unconsciously competent.
Unconsciously competent. Anything else?
That's it.
Get out of here.